Hey, what's up? DeFalco here. Just want to give you guys another behind the beat on a beat that I've been working on recently. So far, this one's called Pink Petals, but it'll probably end up changing. This is another one that I intend for a rapper singer to be a part of, and so yeah, let's check it out. It sounds like this. But yeah, that's the gist of it. Just a fun beat I've been working on recently. Started off with this flute melody. That was the first thing I came up with when I was creating it, and it's actually something I was talking to Kala about this morning. That I may need to remove it if I do plan on having, like a vocalist on here, a rapper or a singer, because it kind of takes up the frequency range I think that they may need to be in. And I was, talking to Kala about that, and she's like, yeah, I kind of agree. But either way, it's a fun little sound, but the beat still sounds pretty cool without it too. So pretty fun either way. But yeah, back to the flute melody. So basically, I have a flute note, like a recording of a flute note that I throw into a sampler, and then I just tweak it to all hell from there with, messing with the glide and the attack, decay, sustain, release, all those aspects, and really just, change it up. And, it still sounds like a flute, but it's a little bit weird or quirky. Like in this case, it sounds like a flute out of some kind of crazy cartoon or something. But yeah, I don't still have the MIDI from that, unfortunately, because I kind of deleted stuff to clean this one up and keep this project organized. But I ended up bouncing to audio and then kind of chopping up the audio from there. So that's what you're hearing here. And so you can see like different parts are pitched up and down and chopped and all this and that. And it has like a reverb to it. The reverb was already like part of the recording, but then I kind of chop it here and there just because I kind of like that sound, that kind of sampled feel or effect. I mean, I come from a place of where I originally was chopping up a lot of sounds and samples and that kind of thing when I was first getting into making music and stuff. So I still really love that, but a lot of times now it's kind of not as easy to share your music if it does incorporate samples that you don't really have permission to use. So I've been making my own samples now and tweaking those instead, and it's still really fun too. So yeah, I went from the flute to adding some hi-hats here. Basic trap hi-hats, basic trap hi-hat pattern, kind of add in a little ride on the downbeat, same kind of thing. And the whole point of the rhythm of the hi-hats, it stays pretty consistent throughout the beat, but it's kind of helping to work with the snare here, if you hear that. So just kind of building up to when the snare is going to hit on some parts there. And then from there, I started adding in the bass. I actually put the bass before I put the kick in because I wanted the bass rhythm to directly influence the kick rhythm. I wanted them to work in tandem pretty closely on this beat. So you have the flute melody, hi-hats, and snare. And then I was like, all right, let's make a bass line. So I went with this. And I didn't really go over the processing of the flute much, did I? I mean, it's pretty basic, just EQ and panning, processing of the hi-hats, EQ and panning, processing of the snare, just EQ, and then the bass. Okay, so the bass is the more interesting processing anyways, but so it's a sample of like an 808 type of bass that I threw into a sampler, and then I adjusted the attack so that it works better with a kick drum in the beginning. and then mess with the decay and release a little bit because I didn't like how long this sample was. I wanted my sub bass or like the 808 bass to just kind of hit and decay more quickly. So there's that. And then put an overdrive here to enhance the frequency that's an octave above the fundamental frequency of the main bass note playing throughout the bass line. And that's to just make it more, to give it more presence and make it more audible on like all speaker systems. This EQ and this saturator are kind of for the same reasons, just different ways to kind of enhance the higher frequencies in the bass and kind of make it more present on all speaker systems. And then some sidechain compression here to kind of work in tandem with the slower attack, so that way that the kick and the bass aren't like conflicting with each other, and instead they like kind of fit together perfectly. And then just a utility for volume purposes. I like to use spectrum analyzers a lot to make sure everything's kind of not only sounding like it's jiving, but I kind of just use it to double check and make sure like, okay, this is at this frequency, you know, and then that helps me even with this on the overdrive to know which frequency to start with enhancing. But of course, always double check, you know, how it sounds should be the main thing. You know, I should never rely on like a spectrum analyzer too much, and I'm pretty good about that. I try not to. This Corpus preset that I designed is something that I use on a lot of my basses, but I ended up not using it on this one just because it didn't really work with the characteristics of this beat. And then this is just a little high pass filter that's automated on and off at different parts of the beat. There's a part where it's like a lot of the low end of the bass is filtered out just to kind of give the beat some variety. But yeah, from there, the bass line rhythm is how I came up with the kick rhythm. They're exactly the same thing. So then so this is one of those types of beats where I'm just using the kick to add that punch to the beginning of the 808 bass, and they work perfectly together. It's not, sometimes, you know, I like to have my kick and bass line different, you know, separate from each other and have different rhythms and stuff like that, and then kind of enhance each other in that way. But sometimes I just like them perfectly together. It really just depends on the beat. But for this beat, I went with that. And then I was like, okay, that sounds cool, but there needs to be something in between that high flute and that low bass that's some sort of melodic thing, because that still sounds really hollow to me. So I wanted to add in something. So on my synth, I played these chords here. And already sounded pretty warm and weird coming out of the synth, which is perfect for this beat, exactly what I wanted. I threw a little bit of some delay and reverb on there too, just to kind of give it a little more space, and then put this wow and flutter to make it even more weird and wonky sounding, kind of give it that VHS kind of vibe, really lo-fi and all that. And then the last thing I did, I think, is just this sound, which is again from my synth as well, and it had more of a decay to it coming right out of the synth, but then I chopped that up and made it really short and staccato, no reverb on here, just a little EQ and panning, and well, a lot of panning. I like it bouncing back and forth between my ears and all that. And yeah, that's mostly it for the beat. The only other thing is I have some splashes for transitions here and some white noise building up to those. So it sounds like that. And oh, and then on some of the splashes to give it more variety. So I have like splashes throughout, but so it doesn't get too repetitive. Like on this one, I put on other effects on them basically. So like on this one, I paired it with this laser sound. It's like a laser with, I put like some delay on it too to make it sound even more trippy. But let's see, just like a little step laser thing from my synth as well. Really cool. And on this splash, I paired it with this fluttering bird wings sound, which is like a couple different samples that I paired together. But yeah, that's basically it. So let me know what you think. Just another behind the beat, something to hopefully give you guys ideas for your own music and your own beats. But yeah, please let me know what you think. Give me your comments, critiques, criticism. Let me know if you guys think this flute sound should stay in it, if I do intend on passing it off to a vocalist, or if you think I need to take it out to make room for that. Let me know. But anyways, thanks for watching.